There is more honour in my left ass cheek than there is in the entirety of Coach. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Tribal. We just saw the second episode of Season 50 of Survivor, and this season is the gift that keeps on giving. I am glued to my screen with Survivor for the first time in, I can't really remember how long. Yes, I do think there's been good moments here and there in New Era, but there has been this feeling that has been missing from me for so long with Survivor, and I feel like Season 50 has injected that feeling back into me. And for the first time in forever, I felt myself going, oh my god, it's nearly Wednesday. It's nearly Wednesday. And Wednesday finally arrived. So I suppose that we should talk about the second episode of Season 50 of Survivor. This was a very jam-packed episode. There are going to be lots of topics to cover, whether it be Aubry getting her hands on her first idol this season, Siri managing to grab an extra vote, plus I think the thing that most people are talking about, which is the Rick Devens versus Joe controversy over on the Sealer tribe. I say controversy, wasn't just two people fell out, right? People are taking sides already. People are saying it was, was it Devens' fault? Was it Joe's fault? We're going to dissect the hell out of that because that seems to be a big talking point of this episode. But things aren't going smoothly as you would think for, a bunch of all-stars, people who are seasoned in the game. You would think they would avoid things like this, but no, that is definitely not the case. I think if anything, having bigger characters and people who are remembered more than the people who fall into the background all beyond one season creates tension. It creates clashes of egos, and I've definitely got an opinion on the Rick Devens versus Joe situation, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But first of all, we should go right back to the beginning of the episode. It's safe to say on the Sealer tribe that things have not gone smoothly for them. You could say that they have potentially had a bit of a shit time. Looking at you, Christian. We'll cover that one very shortly. Immediately as the episode opened, we saw the dynamic shift in the Vatu tribe after the aftermath, of course, of Kyle being medically evacuated last week on Survivor. I want to take a moment just to talk about Kyle, and I touched on it last week as well, but I just want to say it again. It's still lingering on my mind since last week how on earth a winner managed to insulate himself amongst returning players so well within, I think, 4 days. It's beyond impressive. I think what Kyle would have done, maybe a tribe swap could have gotten in the way, but I think he would have been good enough to navigate a tribe swap and get to the merge, if I'm being totally honest. I know that's high praise, but from what we saw from Kyle in just one episode of Survivor 50, can we all just take a moment to appreciate that? This is a winner, the only winner on his tribe, bear in mind. He managed to waltz right in. And there's legends sitting there. People who have been, talked about with Survivor. It's synonymous with Survivor for years. There's Captain America, Colby Donaldson, right there. He played way back when. People named their dogs and kids after Colby. That's how popular he was. And you go over there and there's Stephanie LaGrossa. Wow, that's another Survivor legend right there. Then you look over there. It's Angelina. A legend in her own right. No, she's a legend. She's a legend to me, but point is, Aubry, Q, people who just massive personalities, massive legends in this game, and Kyle managed to grab a few of them, and he just said, and Kyle's going to put himself right here, got Colby there, Stephanie there, Genevieve over there, insane, and he managed to say, now, stand around me, insulate me in this game, so nobody can touch me. He did that. A winner did that. I'm going to miss what we could have seen of Kyle on this season, but again, I just had to mention that just because of how strongly I feel about how I think Kyle could have absolutely crushed this season. But of course, with him leaving from the game, the tribe members who were in an alliance with him were left scrambling and they had to pick up the pieces. We've got Colby, Stephanie, Q and Genevieve, of course, still have 4 on that tribe, 4 out of 7, so it will give them the numbers, but of course they need to do a little bit of damage control, so that's what they did. They went about kind of shifting the cabinet around of the tribe, and Rizzo comes and sits down with Q and Colby, and they talked about locking in, and Rizzo comes over, and all of a sudden they kind of say, hey Rizzo, you wanna join the pack? And I think we need to take a moment to look at Rizzo's game there, because this opening scene where we saw Rizzo get this confessional where he turns around and goes, I came into this game a little bit, and everybody looked at me and thought, that's a lot. So do you know what Rizzo did? He turned his target around. Both Sam and I, my wonderful spouse, we were screaming at the TV and going, oh my God, Rizzo, Rizzo, Rizzo. It was so incredible, wasn't it, Sam? I'm going to shout Sam in from the background. Wasn't it incredible, Sam?
It really was.
There we go, a little special feature from Sam on this fine Wednesday evening. Yeah, wow, Rizzo managed to literally say, I've got this target, and this target that people are looking at me sees somebody who's quite big-headed. He's a lot. He's got an ego. And Rizzo realised that's not going to fly in season 50. It might have flown in season 49, but it's not going to fly here. And that's the one thing I love about Rizzo this season. He's got a respect for these legends. And he knows if he doesn't pull his weight and if he doesn't go the way that they want to go, or if he doesn't not mesh for their game, but if he doesn't get in line quick, he could be gone. And that is the sign of an adaptable player. If anybody ever asks me, Tom, what makes a Survivor player so great? What makes a Big Brother player so great for that matter? The number one thing I will always say, no matter what social strategy game you are playing, it's adaptability. Because so many people, they come in and say, hey, this is my game plan. I'm going to mafia this. I'm going to lie low like a snake in the grass and then bite in the final 3 or the final 4. And meanwhile, this snake in the grass was eliminated on the 3rd episode. Or this mafia person who was way too big for their boots got eliminated first. You can't go into these kind of games thinking, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move this chess piece to this point. And I'm going to move this chess piece over here. Unfortunately, it sounds great, doesn't it? You know, because you can come up with a pre-made game plan. You can do that to an extent. But the point I'm trying to make here is Survivor can change on a dime. Aubry said it in this episode. She said it can change like that. And it did for her, right? And Rizzo is realising that. He's realising, I might have just gotten to the end of, or almost to the end of season 49, but that wasn't luck, you know? I played my ass off to get there. And I'm with a whole bunch of different people than I was last time. So one gameplay size does not fit all. And Rizzo is aware of that. Players who can adapt and not just play the same game every single time. Because, you know, I love Boston Rob, but he tries to mafia it every single time. It only worked with Redemption Island, really. You know, he smashed it on All Stars, but his jury management was trash, right? Then, you know, Marquesas, that was the origins of Boston Rob. Heroes versus villains, again, he tries to mafia things when sometimes a more adaptable player knows when to hold them and fold them. Redemption Island, bada bing, bada boom. Russell was gone and all these fools just followed him. Great, his mafia thing worked brilliantly and it was phenomenal to watch. And then he comes back for Winners of War. He tries the mafia thing again, but in the very same episode, he gets voted out. He is one of my favourites, if not my favourite. I love him so much. But Boston Rob doesn't really adapt to the game that much when he plays a new time around. I'm watching Rizzo right now, and this isn't me saying Rizzo's better than Boston Rob, because he's not. But what I am saying is that a really great player knows how to adapt. And Rizzo is doing exactly that, and it showed in those opening moments of the episode. So I do believe Q is on the periphery of that alliance, is what I would call it. I think he's in there, and I think he's locked in with Colby. But I don't know, it feels like there's groups within groups starting to form, especially now with the involvement of Rizzo. It seems like it's kind of a need-to-know basis depending on who you are in the tribe. But I do think it was very smart scooping up Rizzo, because we, of course, have to remind ourselves that Colby will not have a vote when he goes into his first tribal council, having, you know, lost his vote when he competed with Savannah in the first episode. What I find interesting is, though, now that we know in the next week there is going to be a tribe swap. They're throwing it on us straight after 2 tribal councils. It's insane. There we go. Boom. And I'm kind of looking at this and thinking, hopefully that all these plans they've put in place to work around the fact that Colby will not have a vote can actually still benefit Colby in the tribe swap. Because what could happen right now is Colby, you know those dreadful tribe swaps that we see where somebody gets plucked up and then they end up, it's like 1-7 ratio or something like that of their previous tribe mates. If that happens, Colby could be up shit creek without a paddle. That thought has 100% crossed my mind. You can lay all the groundwork you want with this tribe, but it's not going to be your tribe forever. So, but the lucky thing about this is the majority of the Vatu tribe is in on this alliance. There's only a few on the outside. I'm thinking Aubry and Angelina, to name the 2. But I think Colby is going to have to work quick if he... Okay, worst case scenario for him, he loses all of his alliance members and he ends up stuck with Angelina and Aubry. I don't really think Angelina and Aubry are going to kind of extend... I don't think they're going to extend that olive branch to him because, I don't know, Colby hasn't necessarily done it to them. So it really is going to be interesting if Colby can navigate this swap. He's one person I'm looking at the most, could be in danger actually. I hate to say that because I really am enjoying seeing him back, but I think he could be in danger moving forwards. It's all going to depend really on who he swaps with. Because again, if we talk about Angelina and Aubry for a second, I think they've got more wiggle room than Colby going into a swap. Because, Aubry, people love to work with Aubry, but people also feel threatened by her. And I do think there are people out there who will get on board with her. Rick Devens, for one. Those two spent some time on the edge of extinction together. And while not a lot of time, you've got to admit that must be a little bit of trauma bonding going on the edge of extinction. It doesn't seem like a friendly place to be. So I'm sure Rick and Aubry have that going on. As evident as we saw with the Idol later in the episode. We'll talk about that in depth more later. But Christian is... He threw an idol out for Aubry. So Aubry does have places to go. I would say more so with other tribes, with other people on other tribes. Then we look at Angelina. I think Mike White is waiting there saying, honey, come over here because we are going to run this like it's the White Lotus season 4. They definitely are going to link up when they get a chance. But I also think that if they do land on the same tribe, people are going to start to have that conversation that I think in the preseason a lot of us have waited for, which is, well, there's 3 David versus Goliath players here. It might be a good time to take out one of them, because imagine if 3 of them are at the merge. That's for sure. I'm going to make that statement now. Not all of the David versus Goliath players will make it to merge. And I'll remind everybody the David versus Goliath players. We got Christian, we got Mike White, we got Angelina. I love Christian. I love Mike and I love Angelina. Just brilliant, fantastic picks. David versus Goliath was just a phenomenal season. I could talk about that another day, but there were so many more names on that season that I also think could have been on 50. That just goes to show how fantastic season 37 was, David versus Goliath. Just absolutely brilliant. But because there is 3 of them, I think it's going to make it so freaking hard for all 3 of them to get to the merge. 1 or 2 of them will get there. Mark my words. And it's similar to the Kyle, Camilla, Joe situation. Joe's and Camilla's odds just got a hell of a lot better. More so Camilla's because Kyle is gone, but I don't think Joe's long for the stay in this game. But before we talk about that, it's time to go to the reward challenge now, where we see the South Pacific beef continue to live on. We've got in one corner, it's Benjamin Coach Wade, and in the other corner, it's the Jungle Boy, Ozzy. I'm living for this. Can we talk about how this is the best storyline on Survivor in years? Ozzy and Coach beefing with one another in the big ol' year of 2026. Can we believe it, folks? I can't. It still feels surreal to me. Coach decided to address the entire, not just tribe, the entire cast, and said there's been some rumblings of what happened with the key situation last week. To remind everybody, Ozzy got the key off the post, Coach stole it, and then Ozzy... Okay, right, this is where... Because it's going to come into whose side you're on here, isn't it? But Ozzy said, he said, if you guys drop it, I'm letting you have it. Nobody agreed to it. Q didn't agree to it. Coach didn't agree to it. Listen, Coach can talk about how honourable he is all day long. The man doesn't have an ounce of honour in his pinky toe. But he did not agree to what Ozzy said. Everything's, all bets are off when it's Survivor. And I also think it was incredibly naive of Ozzy, who has played with Coach before, mind you. Not a 26-day game. He played a 39-day game with Coach. And he really thought Coach was going to turn around and all of a sudden be honourable. At what point does the joke become on Ozzy? Because I think Ozzy is also Ozzy's adapting this season, and I'm finding it hilarious how Coach is going around saying I'm Coach 4.0. He's the same old Coach. Ozzy's right. Ozzy turned around and said, I think you're the same old Coach from South Pacific, and everyone was I saw Emily's face. Emily's face was exactly what I was doing. She was like, it was like you couldn't quite believe what you were watching. But I do think both of the gentlemen have truths in what they are saying, but also complete for lack of a better word, bullshit in what they're saying. Coach cannot spin this yarn that he is honourable. It will come and bite him. He is not honourable at all. He's shown it time and time again. He's brilliant to watch, but is he honourable? Absolutely not. That is, there's... There is more honour in my left ass cheek than there is in the entirety of Coach. So, to summarise, Ozzy is completely right in that Coach is talking crap and has no honour whatsoever. But Coach is completely right in the fact that Ozzy can't spin this thing into Coach stole it from me and he cheated, all that kind of jazz. I know he didn't use the word cheat, but we know what Ozzy's alluding to. Ozzy's always got to be the hero, but so does Coach, and that's what makes this conflict so flippin' amazing. You've got this guy, both want to be the heroes every single bloody time we watch them play. And you've got Ozzy who doesn't want to do anything dirty, and you've got Coach who says he never does anything dirty, but that's all he ever does. It's almost as if it was written by writers in a writer's room. I couldn't have asked for a better conflict this season, and I'm saying it right now. The fact that I had to bring up my left ass cheek tells me that this is the best storyline this season. With hammocks and fishing gear on the line, the Sealer tribe were able to pull it out, and they came first after Rick Devens won the ring toss. Fun fact for everybody out there, Rick Devens actually won the same challenge with the ring toss back in Edge of Extinction, so I guess some things never change. Brilliant comeback from the Sealer tribe in terms of challenge performance there, because they had it rough in the last immunity challenge. Of course, this wasn't immunity, but they still performed a hell of a lot better than they did last time. I do believe Aubry was the one to drag the Vatu tribe down, because I hate to say it, I really do. She missed. She missed when she jumped off that ledge and she went to smash that clay pot. She missed, and that cost them a hell of a lot of time. Luckily, that tribe, of course, does have the likes of Colby and Stephanie and Q, so they can make up a lot of time there, but they didn't manage to this time round. It was the Carlo tribe that managed to come in second place after Coach won the ring toss, so well done, Coach, there. Coach and Rick Devens on the same season. It's like a Survivor fan fiction in my mind. It's pretty incredible. I think I'm going to be like this all season long. I still have moments. I had it last week, and I'm having it again this week, and I'll have it in several weeks' time where I'm saying all these legendary names together. I'm like, Siri, Coach, Ozzy, Rick Devens, Christian. I'm like, Emily, this isn't real. It feels amazing. It feels so good I feel a fresh new love for Survivor again. It's awesome. But the Carlo tribe and the Sealer tribe walked away with the reward, leaving Vatu empty-handed. With things looking dire at the Vatu tribe, the tribe mates took it upon themselves to create, let's call it Operation Aubry. Every single person had a role to play in this game, whether it was the lookout, that was Q who was going to shout, let's go, when Aubry was making her way back to camp. Stephanie was going to go schmooze Aubry down at the beach. And then, get this, the rest of them would dig through Aubry's bag. I was like mortified. It's weird because I love it when there's a player I don't like that gets their bag dig through. I'm like, yeah. And then when there's a player I love, like Aubry, getting their bag dig through, I'm like, no. It really is all in the matter of who you root for, is how people view the game. And that's why I love shows like this, because every single one of us right now, whether it be me or you who's listening at home or on the train or at work or wherever you are, at school, anything like that, it's every single one of us is going to have a difference of opinion, right? We've all got our favourites, and I love that we can all bring our own viewpoints to the game, because there's somebody out there whose favourite is Rizzo, there's somebody whose favourite out there is Colby, there's somebody out there who loves Chrissy, and we all can bring our own perspectives to the game to create a larger picture. And I just love that, and that's why I love the reality TV community in terms of talking about these games. I can't get enough of it. That's why I've been doing it for so long. But I felt heartbroken there. Some people who didn't like Aubry probably love that, but I love Aubry. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like Aubry. She's just awesome. But yeah, she had a bag dig through, and they couldn't find anything. So joke's on you, Vatu. That's my professional opinion. As if we didn't have a bad enough injury last week, but the Dragon Slayer, Coach Wade, took an injury this week. Now, we need to ask ourselves, was this an injury or was this a Coach injury? Does everybody remember Coach's asthma in Tocantins? Yeah, me neither. Does anybody remember his back pain in Tocantins? No, me neither. No, the entire tribe remembered it because he never stopped talking about it. Yeah, he is older now. I was a little worried for a second. He was stuck in the water there, but that's also nothing out of the ordinary for Coach. I don't know if he was having some kind of spiritual moment, reminiscing about when the Amazonian tribe kidnapped him and he had to canoe downstream for 2 days to get out. That must have been really traumatic. And, not to mention the time where he went to an ancient monastery to learn this ancient martial art that you can't find if you Google, by the way, because it's only passed down from person to person in a monastery. I don't know if he was just having a moment reflecting upon this tremendous life he's had. But no, he did. He did his leg in. He got cramp in both of his legs. You would think something worse had happened, but yes, he got cramp in both of his legs, and 100% the edit knew that. The edit knew. You could see him limping up the beach, and they had this clown music playing like boom, 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 as Coach made his way up. And Mike White said what we were all thinking, which was, it's so funny how Jonathan was like, I'm going to go fish. Jonathan, who looks like Zeus. He's got his pecs out to here. His arms are that thick. And then Coach says, I'm going to go out with Jonathan. I mean, he can't not, can he? It's Coach. He's like, if this person's doing it, Coach has to do it 10 times better. And then that's exactly what happened. He went out, tried to show what he was made of with Jonathan, and then he got cramp in his legs. There was a little bit of humour in that one. Success and failure for Christian over on the Sailor Tribe after he manages to shit his pants. You know how the saying goes though, folks? Every poop has a silver lining, and that's why Christian managed to find an idol. Just to recap, in a conversation with Joe looks at Christian and says, hey, you doing okay? And Christian goes, I will answer that in a moment. And then he waddles out of camp like a toddler who just did something to their diaper. Christian found the opposite of an idol in his pants and then waddled back to camp, much to the amusement of Emily and Joe. I was absolutely creasing watching this. I don't know if creasing's a phrase from the northeast of England. I can't. I'm not sure, but maybe you guys understand that as well. Am I getting the? I've got an American in the room with me right now. Is this like dictionary corner on Countdown in the UK? Is creasing part of the lingo over here? No.
Not that I know.
Okay, let me rephrase it to my American friends. I was laughing my ass off when Christian crapped his pants. It felt like a classic Survivor moment, which sounds hilarious that I'm like loving someone crapping their pants, but it was just funny, and to see the human side of the game is always a classic time on Survivor. The best moments are formed from that, and Joe and Emily were, for lack of a better word, laughing their asses off too. It was just a great moment, and I find it hilarious that Christian last week he was talking about how his new baby boy, he wants his son to see this journey, and I just absolutely love that. It sounds stupid, but he's bearing all. His son is going to get to see the highs and lows of his dad on Survivor, and I don't know. Christian is he's a pure soul, and he's bearing all. I know that sounds odd to say that right now, but I adore this man. I just think he's wonderful, and his self-deprecating humor is just I love it. I love it. And him turning around saying, I think my wife is going to divorce me after this. I just think he's so funny. Because, his wife isn't going to divorce him for it. But he has fun with it. He has fun and he says these funny things. I think it's hilarious. I probably would have said something similar too. He is just absolutely hilarious. And I cannot get enough of Christian. So charismatic, and it's absolutely no wonder that we are watching this story play out. If he would have a brilliant story if he wins this season. He could say, I'm a David who became a Goliath. Because that's what I see when I look at Christian. He's David, but he is also Goliath in so many ways. Now, the silver lining in said poop was Christian finding the idol. To be more specific, the Billie Eilish boomerang idol. And points if anybody spotted Colby Donaldson saying those words tonight. I wonder if when Colby started this magnificent journey in 2001, he thought one day, yeah, I'll be sat there in 25 years' time saying, the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol still playing the same game. I love this show. So Christian found this Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol that Genevieve found last week. I'll remind everybody, if you've forgotten the powers of this idol, it is good until the final 5, but you must give it to somebody else on the other tribes. Now, if this person is voted out with the Boomerang Idol in hand, it does, as a boomerang says, it makes its way back to the previous owner. So there is strategy in picking somebody who you think might get voted out soon, but there is also strategy in giving it to somebody who might keep quiet about it and can actually use it to their own advantage. And Christian went with the latter. He decided to give the idol to Aubry. And I think after what happened earlier with, the tribe digging through her bag, it feels like it came at the right time. I almost broke down crying watching Aubry find that idol in her bag, and I'm so bloody glad that they checked the bag before, because now they're going to feel comfortable. That whole Vatu tribe now are thinking, if we do end up at tribal, not that the swap's coming, but it's going to be easy for those I guess manifestations and talks to bleed out into the swap of people saying, yeah, we were kind of looking at Aubry on the outs, and then that makes other people go, okay, great, I don't want it to be me, so we'll go Aubry. This is going to make people think Aubry is a sitting duck. That's the first mistake you can make with Aubry Bracco. She is not a sitting duck. This woman, I will remind everybody, went out with an idol in her pocket in Edge of Extinction. She has had, I believe, 6 years. Yes, 6 years to think. No, she played. Edge of Extinction was 2019. She played in the summer of 2018, which technically means, and she played in 2025 for season 50. So, yeah, she's had 7 years to relive that mistake of being voted out her third game with an idol in pocket. You best believe that woman is beady-eyeing this tribe for her life. She isn't ready. She's not ready to make that same mistake again 7 years later. Her finger is going to be on the pulse. And I'm telling you, Aubry, even though, I don't know, she seems, I'm going to say, a little bit out of it this season. Not in a way where I think it's Aubry's down and out. I think she is very quickly picked up on the fact that she is not in on this tribe. And I'm sure she'll be hypersensitive to that, because last time with Edge of Extinction, the only returning players on her tribe, it was her alongside Joe Anglem. And, this tribe did a decent job of making Aubry feel in and safe. And then they blindsided her. And that's a credit to some brilliant gameplay. I'll mention again because I love Edge of Extinction. I know a lot of people don't, but any chance I get to mention Edge of Extinction, I'll take it. Victoria and Gavin did a marvellous job of making Aubry feel comfortable. That mistake will not happen again. Aubry is going to be hyper aware of, are these people getting ready to vote me out? And, her energy seems lower, and I think that's because she realises that she's on the outs. She talked about it herself in this episode. She can't quite get a read on the tribe. And Aubry's smart enough to know that if you can't get a read, it probably means that you were on the outs. Now, I think this swap is really going to help Aubry, but I think what's helped her even more is the fact that those people went through her bag, and then she got this idol from Christian after the bag incident, so everybody's thinking Aubry ain't got crap. Well, let me tell you, folks, Christian's got crap, but Aubry's got an idol. With the next immunity challenge coming up, let's take a look at each tribe, kind of the dynamics, what's going on inside those, and kind of what the vibe was of going into this immunity challenge. Who could go from each tribe should they lose immunity? And we'll start with the Carlo tribe. And I'm just going to come out and say who I think it would have been if they had gone to tribal council, but we'll also dissect what led to that, how that conclusion came about. So I'll say it. Chrissy. I believe Chrissy would have been the first person to be taken out of the Carlo tribe should they have gone to tribal council. Now, I got a bit shocked by the edit tonight when they painted Chrissy almost as this, I guess, rookie of the game. Because I think it's pretty obvious, there has been, that stereotype has existed since the beginning of the game. You know, the overbearing person, the person who's trying to mom the tribe, the person who's trying to dad the tribe. And it just kind of becomes a bit annoying after a while, or even after 3 days, and they become the first boot. I'm thinking of BB in Survivor Borneo. My God, you know, he tried to manage the tribe, and it got on people's nerves, and he got the boot. A more recent version of that would be the likes of Survivor Edge of Extinction. Who remembers Reem? Dude, every single set, dude. She just said dude every single moment, and I loved her. She's one of my favourite first boots ever. If you actually are asking me that question, which I know you're not, but I love talking trivia, so I'm going to do it anyway. My favourite first boot of all time is the first boot of all time. Sonia Christopher. You are... I just love that woman with my whole soul. If you haven't seen Survivor Borneo, I'm sorry if I spoiled that. But I'm sure if you're watching a returning season, you've probably seen the older stuff. But Sonia, pure of soul, I just loved her so much. And I just love, on a personal level, I think she's fantastic. Reem would have been great chaos had she made it further. Luckily, we could see her on the edge for all that time. But she had it rough that season. And Reem is always the one that reminds me in the more modern era of the mom. The person who's saying, hey, you need to do this. Put the fire on. Let me wash your clothes for you. And it seemed like Chrissy was getting that edit. And I was confused because I know Chrissy's a mom, and she was a mom also in her Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers season, but she didn't necessarily come across like somebody who was overbearing. So I was shocked because I thought, this is weird. Surely Chrissy knows not to do that because she's made it deep. She's gone deep in this game before. And it's a rookie mistake to do that. So I thought, has Chrissy gotten rusty? Are they blowing things out of proportion in the edit? And it seemed like several people in their confessionals had something to say about that. So then my conclusion, unfortunately, has been that Chrissy might have gotten a little rusty. Now, like Aubry said, something that we all need to remember, Survivor can change like that. And I hope it can for Chrissy. But I do think things are looking a little bit dire for Chrissy on the Carlo tribe. Should they go to Tribal Council, or should she go to Tribal Council next week and she still has a few of her original tribe mates on her new tribe? It could mean that she's expendable to those people trying to get in with other people. So I think Chrissy could be somebody we're looking at over the next couple votes as to who could go. But again, like Aubry said, Survivor can change very quickly, and this swap could be just what Chrissy needs to get ahead in the game, recalibrate and realise, oof, I can't do that. It's going to make people want to vote me out. I need to lock in because this is the big leagues. While we talked about the Aubry bag incident earlier, I think it was pretty evident on the Vatu tribe that Aubry was at the bottom, and should they had gone to Tribal, I do think it would have been Aubry. Dare I say unanimous? I think they would have looped Angelina in just to make her feel safe, because if they hadn't told Angelina we're voting Aubry, Angelina would have known 100% that she was next. And I think in this new era of the game, it's more important than it has ever been to keep people in the dark. Gone are the days where you just ice somebody out and, you know, they can't do anything about it. You have to make them feel comfortable now. That's a component of the game. Every good player now has the ability to go, hey, come here. There's some people who've always had that. I'm talking Boston Rob. I'm talking Siri. I'm talking Parvati. Those people are pros at it, which has made them ahead of their time, right? But now every player... It's like when you get the new iPhone. Something comes built in with it. Every single new era player has to come built in with making people feel good. And luckily, the majority of these old school players have been able to adapt to that. And I think that would have extended to Angelina. I think all these people would have gone, yeah, oh my God, we just need to keep the tribe strong. And she doesn't know that there's a big core alliance that's sitting right there. But they ain't going to let that on. They would have let it on if they told her and said... yeah, I don't know who we're thinking of doing tonight. And then she gets blindsided. She stays, but she gets blindsided. She's not going to feel as cooperative, right? Keep her cooperative because then you can control her more. That's exactly what they would have done, I believe. And I think Aubry would have been the person to go. But they didn't get her, did they? And I think Aubrey's one of those players where, you know, if you give her an inch, she can sometimes take a mile. And now we'll talk about the Sealer tribe, even though we know Savannah was the one who ended up getting voted out going into the immunity challenge. I would say it seemed like Joe was probably in the most jeopardy. At this point in the episode, it was solely based off tribe dynamics. We knew that Christian and Devens are pretty much running the show, with Emily right there beside them doing work for her. And then you've got Siri and Ozzy, who are kind of working alongside Christian and Devens. Emily kind of wants Ozzy out, but there isn't enough sway to get that happening right now. And then you've got Savannah, who's kind of a wild card that seemed to be getting in with the group. And then you've got Joe, who doesn't really have as many connections as he would like to. Obviously, things got a little more spicy on that tribe, which we'll talk about after the immunity challenge. The Joe vibe also all of a sudden came into fruition when Rick and Joe had that incredibly awkward conversation at the water well. Things didn't spiral out quite yet, but Savannah and Rick were kind of whispering to each other, as one does on Survivor. And then Joe asked Rick to come clean at the water well, and Rick kind of fumbled the ball terribly, I will add. I love Rick Devens, so I hate talking bad on him, but and I really like Joe as well, so I hate talking bad on him. But Joe seems to be quite stuck in his ways, I'm going to say, for this game. But Rick also is, because Rick is saying, like, just let me play, bro, while Joe's saying, no, you can only play if you're going to be honest with me, bro. And it's a clash of personalities. We love to see it. But yeah, Rick didn't come clean about what was said to Savannah, which basically was about an alliance being put together, which Joel found out about later. And then he was confused why Rick didn't just say anything. And Rick was saying, I didn't think I was the person to say it. Joe should have learned just to take no for an answer and realize, okay, Rick probably doesn't have your back. He kept digging as if he was looking for the answer and looking for Rick to submit and kind of say, okay, I'm sorry, Joe, like, I'll give you what you want. But sometimes in Survivor, it's about just hearing it and going, okay, I need to work around this rather than working on it. And I think that was Joe's biggest mistake there. But also, Devens really fumbled the ball. He could have handled that way better and just said it to Joe, because it wouldn't have harmed. Joe was right. It couldn't have harmed him. But lying is the game. Both of them have very, very valid points. And that all came to a head later in a big old argument that we will talk about. But yes, back to the danger on the Sealer tribe. This is why all things were pointing towards Joe. Time to talk the immunity challenge now, and I think in my heart for these past few days I've been thinking, man, I would love it if the Sealer tribe got a break this week at Tribal Council. But on the other hand, my brain has been thinking over these past few days, well, at least we're going to get to see Sealer at Tribal Council again on Wednesday. I had the feeling that they would end up at Tribal Council. I made my prediction going into an episode. My lovely spouse Sam and I, we have our own little draft league going. And we both did predictions on who we thought was going to be eliminated this episode. And Sam's pick was... Yes?
I had really bad picks this week.
Who was your pick to be eliminated this week? Camilla. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Sam thought Camilla would be eliminated. Who did your husband pick?
Savannah.
Did you hear that, folks? Savannah. So yeah, I just had to toot my own horn for just a second there. But back to the immunity challenge. Sealer lost it again. Carlo and Vatu safe at Tribal Council. They have survived this section of the game. Congratulations to the members of Vatu and Carlo, the people who are still there. They have made it to the first merge and the first shift in the game of Survivor 50. So brilliantly, amazing job from those guys. But it's time we talked more about the Sealer tribe, which it seems like that's all we're doing this season so far. Luckily, I love this tribe. That's what makes it a double-edged sword, because I love these people. I love seeing Siri. I love seeing Devens. I love seeing Christian. I love seeing Emily. I love seeing Joe. I love seeing, Savannah. Every single person on this tribe is great. I enjoyed every single one of these people at some point in their Survivor career. But because of that feeling, it makes it so hard when they go to Tribal. Now, I suppose it's time we talked about the Rick Devens versus Joe situation. To understand this situation fully, we need to go back to the start, which was, I will remind everybody, Savannah pitched an alliance. She said, okay, myself, Joe, Ozzy, and Rick Devens, we're going to get together and become a four. Ozzy wasn't really interested in it because he's got Siri, that's his right-hand man, and that's who he's batting for this time. And he has talked about how Siri is, and I quote, magical in this game. So he's completely gotten into bed with Siri, and I don't really think he wants to entertain anything other than what Siri's telling him to. Because while he's also, he's reaping rewards from Siri, Siri's reaping way more rewards from Ozzy than he is from her. Siri's not dumb. She knows how to use people to her advantage, and she can cut Ozzy when she needs to. I do think there is a genuine connection there, and I do think it will last a while, but I don't know. It seems like Ozzy is just not very good on a strategic level or a social level. Siri said it. Ozzy's social game sucks ass. It seems odd, doesn't it? Because if Ozzy was an individual player, why not take the alliance? You got alliance, you get an alliance, you get an alliance. Thank you. You take all the alliances you can get, whether you're loyal to them or not. That's another story. That's how you play the game. But if you take an alliance, you don't say no. You don't back off. You don't push it away. You don't kind of go, take it, because it's more cover. On the flip side of things, Rick Devens didn't kind of want to get in on it either, because, where his loyalty lies is Christian and Emily. So immediately there was a bit of a conflict, because Savannah and Joe finally sat down, had a conversation. Joe asked Savannah, what were you guys whispering about earlier? What were you and Rick Devens whispering about? And Savannah came clean and said, I wanted an alliance. I wanted it to be me, you, Devens, and Ozzy. And then began Joe's conflict. He was saying, why didn't Rick just tell me? That doesn't seem like something you have to keep a secret. Rick should have just told me when we were at the water well. And then began the trial of Rick Devens. Judge Joe was presiding over the court, and he found the man guilty of lying on a reality competition show. And that's the conflict right there. Rick wanted to lie, Joe wanted the truth. Both can be done on Survivor, but it can piss people off when you're not on the same page. So Joe did come on very strong, interrogating Rick. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you tell me the truth? And then Rick, obviously, the guards go up, get really defensive, and he's saying, what do you expect me to do, bro? This is Survivor. We have to lie. And I'm like, both are making valid points, but my word. Joe came on strong. That's my initial reaction to this whole debacle, was that Joe came on way too strong. That seems to be the general consensus as well. It was almost like, I don't know. Do you know those old shows you see where they grab the interrogating light and put it right in his face and say, now, you tell me, where were you at 12:04 p.m. on a... that's kind of what it felt like. And I felt like Rick was backed up against the wall, and he created the situation himself. But what Joe was demanding was a little bit crazy for a game that is Survivor. A game where you lie, a game where you backstab, a game where, sometimes you have to, not say the wrong things to these people at the right time. Rick got himself into the situation, but Joe just kept digging the hole. He kept getting the soil and going, and doing it again. See, Joe could have ran it and turned things against Rick and said, Rick's lying, Rick's making things up, I don't trust Rick, and then that could have snowballed. It might not have, but it could have. But Joe instead kind of sank his own game in the process, just kind of grabbed this bone like a dog and just, do you know when the dog won't let go of the bone? That's kind of what happened there, and he kept going on about the same situation over and over again. Meanwhile, we've got Rick over there having a conversation with Siri, and Siri said exactly what was on my mind. Oh my god, you lied on Survivor? I'm clutching my pearls right now. I will remind everybody of the confessional that Rick Devens had. I just thought it was a brilliant line. He says, I have not stopped loving Joe as a human being. I am over it with him as a game player. You're a Survivor player, bro. We're allowed to lie and backstab. I think it's safe to say that Joe really needed this upcoming tribal swap. He completely isolated himself on the Sealer tribe, basically making everybody feel like, how can you even work with somebody in this game who feels like you have to be honest with them constantly? That used to be a thing way back when, and it hasn't always worked. Richard Hatch won the first Survivor by not being honest. People have won the game by being honest. People have gone and played a very honest game the whole time, but in this fast-paced game full of all-stars, if you think you can continue to game with somebody who's been that rigid and being like, okay, well, you have to be almost on top of them every single second so their feelings don't get hurt in this game level. Christian said we need to come up with a rotation. a Jotation. We all sit down and make sure that he's feeling good at all times. And when you've got a player like that, when you're literally quite having to babysit somebody on the tribe, that's when you've got a problem. There was also one of the best shots I have ever seen on Survivor, which was Joe lying in the hammock and Christian's beady eyes popping out from the little holes in the hammock, in the rope. It was brilliant. Go back and see that if you haven't. I'm going to throw it on the screen right now. I will literally grab it right now. It was the best shot ever. Christian then proceeded to stand up like a mother bear and rock Joe back and forth in his hammock as Joe commiserated and spoke to the therapist. And then Christian turned around and said, "It's like a therapy carousel." Christian knows exactly what he's doing. The man's smart. And Joe isn't seeing it because, Christian doesn't look like a typical mother bear. He's a robotics professor who's rocking this fully grown man back and forth in a hammock as he tells him about his problems. Joe's not in a good position in this game, but I'll tell you who is. Christian, and I'm still rocking this hammock. Christian came clean about the Billie Eilish boomerang idol to Rick Devens, and we know that when that man gets a sniff of an idol, we're about to see something that should be hung in the Louvre. Rick Devens is an architect. He's a man who sees a piece of paper and he says, "How do I turn this into Survivor history?" He was like that. It's like the light bulb went off. As soon as Christian said, "This is what I've got," Rick went, "Oh, I've got an idea." He wanted, basically, to wrap it all back up with a fake and using all the papers and planting it at tribal council. Now, there's two ways this could go. Because, there's the old Rick Devens classic, which is him putting on a show at tribal. Or there is the old Rick Devens classic of making somebody else put on a show at tribal and completely embarrass themselves. They wanted to plant this fake idol in front of the fire at tribal, kind of, behind a rock. And it could go one of two ways, like I said. The first one is Rick is up against the wall, or Christian is up against the wall at a future tribal council. And then they pretend, "Oh my god, I've just found an idol at tribal council." They find it in the rocks. And everyone goes, "Oh my god, oh geez, we have to change the vote. We have to change the vote." And then boom, Rick or Christian has managed to use this completely useless piece of paper and idol now to get themselves through a tribal. Now, you've got something on the other hand where maybe we're down in the merge and somebody's trying to get Rick out, because they always were in Edge of Extinction. And then Rick Devens, as he did with Julie and as he did with Lauren, kind of goes, he paves the red carpet over to the idol for them and makes them pick it up. And then they play the idol, and then Jeff turns around and goes, "This idol is a fake." And then Rick Devens is sitting there as the jury smile on as he puts on a pantomime show for the jury, because Rick Devens' performance with the jury, in my opinion, he wasn't a finalist, but had he been, I think that Rick Devens' jury management and the performances and shows he put on for the jury would be argued as potentially the best in Survivor history. There have been a few people who've been, talented enough to get a unanimous win. Rick Devens, I believe, would have been one of those people. The show it was almost like if you were on the jury, you were going to watch a TV show every single night. He's the anchorman and he knows to put on a show, and he's doing it again on season 50. And the fact that Christian said, "Hey, I've got this," and Rick immediately just went, "Right, I've got an idea. Give me the paper. I'm just going to craft this amazing thing and create some Survivor history." Because I'm telling you what, folks, while that little bomb is sitting at tribal council, it might not go off next week. It might not go off a week after. But maybe when we get to the back end of April or May, the idol or the fake idol goes boom and Rick Devens has his moment to shine. With the vote fast approaching, it was time for pretty much every single person in this tribe to get in on the game. It was crazy because, you've got Rick and Joe. They've got their situation going on there. And then you've got Siri and Ozzy, who have this big target as legends of the game. And then you've got Savannah, who's a winner. And then you've got Emily and Christian, who are kind of sitting pretty on this tribe. They're in great positions, I will say. And, everyone's looking around, trying to put the target on their own person. Emily wants Ozzy out. And then you've got a couple of people who want Savannah out. And then you've also got people going, "Joe's killing his game." And even Joe was able to kind of put his personal feelings aside and say, on a personal level, yeah, I want Rick to go. I'm done with Rick Devens. But he also said, I need to get my head on straight and go, okay, what do we need to do that's best for us as a tribe? Emily and Siri were conversing, and Emily kind of summarized the situation, saying, I think this person wants Savannah, I think this person wants Joe, I think this person wants Ozzy, and then the antennas went off on Siri when she heard Ozzy. She heard one of her allies was in jeopardy, and then she did what she does best. She went to work. She's approaching all the members of this tribe and saying, and she thinks to herself, how do I shift this vote? And she does it almost effortlessly. I'm blown away. Like, I'm just even having this conversation, I'm starting to get goosebumps or goose pimples, whatever you guys want to say right now. I don't know how she does it, but she does it every single time. She turns around and she's saying, well, we could take Ozzy out, but, there's also the option of Savannah. That could happen too, And then we cut to her in a confessional and she says, all I do is give you the information and I'll leave it up to you to make your own decision. But your own decision may or may not be mine. And that is the genius of Siri. She plants the information in a way where she has it eaten out of your hand. Yeah, Ozzy's a threat. Of course he is. I'm with you. I'm on your side. Da, 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 da. But I mean, Savannah, she's a winner. And we haven't seen her play yet. We don't know how scary that is. Siri's right. Siri's right. Maybe we can get Ozzy next time. There's no way Ozzy's getting to the end. He's a massive target, like Siri said. And as Siri said, Savannah, we don't know how she plays. Yeah, I don't know. I trust Siri on this. So all of these people are going at each other. Meanwhile, Siri, who is playing her 5th game of Survivor, is sitting there as if she is the top of the Sealer Mafia, watching all these families, the 5 families fight it out. And you got Don Corleone, Don Fields, sat at the top. Don Siri Fields sitting at the top. And she just gets what she wants, doesn't she? Hey, you go do this job. You go do this job. I'm just going to I'm just going to do some manipulating and I'll get exactly what I want. So you know what just happened, guys? Can we just recap this before we talk about Tribal? Jenna Lewis is gone. Savannah is gone. Joe could go soon. If this tribe stayed together, let's play that game. Joe would be gone. Ozzy would then be gone. And then, things she'd work on magic and ripping up Christy and Devens and Emily. And then before you know it, these people have let Siri Fields, the biggest threat of the season, get to the dwindling numbers where she can have even more control. If you haven't realised it already, Siri Fields is one of the greatest to ever play this game. She should have been out last week. But she's going to be there in episode 3. And I wonder if we'll be saying the same thing about episode 4. Okay, time to talk Tribal now. And everything came up unanimous. The Sealer tribe, despite all of their many, many differences, have managed to come together for 2 unanimous votes. They all voted for Jenna. And then they all voted for Savannah. Savannah's vote was actually cast for Ozzy this week, so that's obviously what they made her feel like going in, make her feel comfortable. Getting Ozzy out, it's going to be okay. And then they all voted Savannah. Do you know who got that? That was Siri. Siri did that. She manipulated the entire tribe into feeling that she was the best option to go. Let me keep my henchman, Ozzy. Let's vote out Savannah. Okay, Siri. Unbelievable. I am worried going into a tribe swap because Siri has managed to insulate herself. But she could just do the same thing over and over again. She has this mist that nobody else has. I know people have won the game and I know Siri hasn't. But I am yet to find anybody who has the mist that she does. It's a travesty to me that she hasn't won the game. And what I'm terrified of doing right now is slowly convincing myself that she could win season 50. I want it to be true. I believe it could be true. But I'm scared because it feels too good to be true. She has such a phenomenal target on her back that you'd think there's no way these fools are going to let her get to the end. I don't know about that. Right after Savannah was voted out of the tribe, Rick and Christian, it was their time to shine. Christian steps up, he grabs his torch, and he stumbles over a tribal council. I thought, this is incredible, because I was eyeing Rick the whole time. Even when he first got into tribal, I was seeing, what's that? That man in his bag, he's like Mary Poppins, right? You know, you never know what he's going to pull out of it. And I was thinking, how is he going to get away with this? How is he going to plant it? I saw Emily side-eyeing him as well, thinking, what's he up to? What's he up to there? And I don't know if they'll let Emily in on this. I think the edit would have showed Christian and Devens telling Emily. I think this is just a Christian and Devens thing. It's Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. But Christian falls over to cause a diversion, and Rick grabs the fake out of his bag and plants it right in the rocks at tribal. And he did this quick look at camera. He did this Rick Devens look at camera, which was the big cheesy smile and the wide eyes. It was a split second. Blink and you miss it. But he did it. Rick Devens successfully planted a fake at tribal council. Oh my God! I am loving this. Let's talk about Savannah. She had a rough go of it this time around. Savannah, fresh off the back of season 49, a very, very dominant win. I was impressed by her gameplay. I predicted from the beginning that she had it because I think she showed her prowess from episode 1. I think she was one of those winners who showed, yeah, I got what it takes right from the beginning all the way through. And if you've been keeping an eye on all the behind the scenes stuff and interviews, you will know that there was actually less than 2 weeks Savannah had between finishing 49. She flew out back to the States. She flew out back from Fiji back to the USA. She had a moment to say, hi family, I love you, I love you, I love you. Sayonara, I'm off again. And she had to go back, right? You know, you've barely unpacked the game. There's some people who have played, not for over a decade, and they still have such a deep experience with this game that it doesn't really leave you. And in the history of Survivor, back-to-back players, people talk about it whenever it happens. Rupert's done it. Russell's done it. These are big names in Survivor. And Savannah joins these big names because Rupert and Russell, come on, like, easy in the top 10 of names of people who, if you ask somebody random on the street, who's a casual Survivor fan, okay, Rupert and Russell are going to be higher up the list. It's a high honour to join names like that, and Savannah did. So I first of all just want to take my proverbial hat off to her right now because she didn't make it far, but that's ballsy as all hell, going from one season to another and saying, I'm still going to give it my all. The physical and mental and spiritual toll, because Coach is on this season, is tremendous. It's so freaking high, and to do that is beyond impressive. Now, Savannah didn't have a great run this time. I think Rizzo is in for a better run. But I want to bring something to the table. I can't help but feel like it should have been a little bit more of a wait until we saw Savannah. And Rizzo again, for that matter. I would have said that before I saw how Rizzo played, but because Savannah hasn't managed to get much leeway this season, I think it would have been cooler if she returned for Survivor 57, little bit of time to let the target go down. I just think her chances would have been way higher because this time going in, she's had to battle with this big old question mark that has been over her head, which is everybody looking at her going, I have no idea how she played. Yeah, I know she won. Did she play the most cutthroat game of all time? Oh my God, the heroes versus villains people made a mistake with Russell doing that. I ain't gonna make that mistake. Bang, chopping block. Gone on week 2. It's insane, right? And I don't know. Savannah's a great player, but I think the target was too big to navigate through these kind of players. So yeah, if Savannah had, came back for season 60, season 61, 2, 57, you name it, I think she would have stood a better chance. But again, I take my proverbial hat off her for doing back-to-back seasons. Amazing job, Savannah. Before we close out, a little bit of Survivor trivia because I love trivia moments. Any kind of fact I can, put into my reality TV brain to take it in like a sponge. I love it. Savannah is actually the first winner to return straight off the back of their own season. We've seen winners return so many times in this game, but Savannah is the first winner to come back the season after. So again, proverbial hat tipped. And another trivia fact, which, isn't necessarily as impressive, but Savannah becomes the first New Era winner to have their torch snuffed at Tribal Council. Kind of crazy that the last New Era winner also becomes the first one to have their torch snuffed. But Savannah, she came into this game, she gave it her all. It's just a shame that the target was so big. Going into next week, I will remind everybody that there is a swap, and I can't wait to see how some people are going to manage to navigate. Swaps scare the hell out of me in Survivor. They can either be make or break. Going into a swap, we all have our favourites, right, from the original tribes. And we all get terrified because you can insulate yourself as much as you want to in these early tribes. But then something called the swap comes along and says, nope, we're not doing that. If you are new to Survivor, the swap is an incident where Jeff will say at the beginning of the episode, everybody drop your buffs. They all take their colours off, throw them on the floor, and they take new buffs. The tribes are essentially shuffled and new people are on tribes with new people. So it's almost a fresh game, which means it can be fantastic if you are at the bottom and you've just managed to get yourself a new lease of life. But it can also have the flip side where, you know, you've really well insulated yourself, but then you lose all those people and then nobody wants to work with you. But flip it on its head again. You can insulate yourself very well and you might end up, by luck of the draw, ending up on the tribe with those people, meaning that you are still insulated. It's a roulette wheel and I can't wait to spin it next week. I am very, very excited. I am loving Survivor 50, you guys. I don't know if you can tell, I've been grinning the entire episode. This is the most I have been excited for Survivor in a long time. So just on a level of enjoyment and a level of being a fan, you know, I do show up and you talk about all these shows in front of the camera, but I'm a fan at the core of everything. That's what I am. I'm a fan. I love these shows. I have followed them through their highs and lows. I love the psychology. I love the environment. I just love all these different aspects of the game and seeing all these different people interact. And that's why I'm enjoying this season. Different people interact. It does feel a little carbon copy in the new era. I will say the new era has produced some fantastic people. They are there on 50. Q, Savannah, Rizzo, Emily. These people are great. These people are personalities. And that's what makes Survivor so great. Personalities. It's a real mix of personalities this season. And it feels like everyone's there to play really, really hard. And yes, everyone is there to play really hard in the new era. But I feel like there's a difference between being there to play hard and actually doing it. Because so many people talk such a big game. I want to be on the Mount Rushmore of Survivor. I'm going to do diabolical things in this game that have never been done before. Then they get voted out at the 4th tribal. And try and retain fame on Twitter for years. I don't really have time for that. I will continue to watch it because I love it. But this is Survivor. This is Survivor. This is a mix of personalities. This is a mix of ages. This is a mix of people from all over. This is people who are here to play and here to give us entertainment. That's what Survivor should be. I am so excited to watch this season play out. It's going to keep me hooked as we move into the spring, as the snow disappears from Massachusetts. Can you all tell I'm getting a bit sick of the snow? I'm glad we can transport ourselves to Fiji once a week because it makes me feel like a sun still exists. I love Massachusetts. I'm joking. I'm becoming a proud masshole. I don't want to sound like a masshole without the M though, so I'm going to stop venting about the weather. I can't wait. As we move into the spring and the numbers dwindle down on this cast, I can't wait to see who manages to get to the end and manages to navigate the whole thing. I'm loving it. It feels great. It's the first time in a long time where throughout the week, whether it be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm thinking to myself, Wednesday can't come soon enough. Tonight can't come soon enough. Oh my God, 2 hours to go. Oh my God, half an hour to go. Oh my God, 10 minutes to go. It feels great to feel that love for Survivor again. And that feels like a good stopping off point for this episode of Talking Tribal. I want to thank everybody so much for their support on my season 50 videos. Right off the back of covering traitors, we had a lot of fun there, didn't we? I think we're going to have even more fun doing this season. Thank you for everybody who continues to watch. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed listening, please consider hitting the like button. It really helps me out. I put a lot of time and effort into making these videos, and those likes really do help me and mean a lot to me in growing this channel. And speaking of growing, please hit the subscribe button if you are new around here. I'm just a guy who talks about these reality shows and I love doing it. I'm passionate about Big Brother, Survivor, The Traitors, all these kind of shows. I have a deep love for it. I have since I was a kid, and as I move into my 20s, I want to keep my love going for these things, and doing these videos, it really does. I love being analytical and diving into all these things, and it's weird. I feel like I'm growing a brand new love for all these shows as I'm entering my 20s. It's a different kind of love than I had for them in my teen years, but all these reality shows hold such a close place in my heart. And so does this channel. So please hit the subscribe button if you would like to join the community. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let me know who your favourite is after episode 2 in the comment section below. I love talking Survivor with you folks as well. So please strike up a conversation in the comment section with fellow Survivor fans and get something going, because I'd love to join in as well and give my thoughts in the comment section. So thank you again. I've said that a million times. But yes, after an episode of pants crapping, fake idols, and a complete blindside of a winner, it's safe to say that we're off to a great start. In the meantime, folks, I hope that you're all staying safe, staying positive, and staying healthy out there. And remember to be kind to one another. But in the meantime, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that wonderful stuff. But until your next Talking Tribal, I've been your host, Tom Vasey. Good night.